Portland's violent crime jump outpaced all of the U.S. This is per the FBI. The FBI is like, all right, rest of the country, you guys have kept 2020 and 2021 pretty much on par. Portland, you guys are off the hook. What's going on? Let's check it out. Republicans have made tackling crime a major campaign issue going into next month's midterm elections. We keep hearing that, right? Republicans are hammering on that. Democrats are hammering on the whole abortion issue. Which one is higher in priority? And in a second, we're going to get to what Portland is doing about this, and you'll find that quite entertaining, as I did. It's pretty wild. You got crazy crime going on in Portland, and yet you've got you got some weird stuff as a reaction to it. The increase in violent crime in Portland, Oregon between 2020 and 2021 outpaced the rest of the U.S. If you guys have been following this podcast for any amount of time, the numerous stories that we have done on what is happening in Portland, and I think a lot of that is people have in their head, hey, Portland's a cool place to go to. It's a lot of fun. It's a really nice town. And if you haven't followed any media like News for Reasonable People, you probably get to Portland and go, what in the world is happening here? Somebody put a message on one of the comments in one of the Portland videos that it was like ... when you realize that Afghanistan is more safe than Portland. There's something along those lines. And you're like, you know what? That's probably accurate. It's probably accurate, which is wild and crazy, but that's what's happened in Portland. It's just, they've had just a rough run. And it's because of city leadership and defunding the police and all this other stuff, the rise in crime in general across the United States. But the areas where you've defunded the police and you've got, let's face it, you've got left of center politics going on, that hasn't worked in a city like Portland's favor. And when you just let homelessness go wherever, decriminalize all the drugs, yeah, you've got just that magic combination of things that FBI now says, Portland, you guys are leading the trend here. You guys are really tippy top. Number one in your class. Well, no, not well done. The FBI released its latest figures last Wednesday, showing that violent crime in the U.S. more or less remained steady between 2020 and 2021, up from 2019. But if you keep those 2 years steady, you're like, okay, so crime elevated and you kept it there. But Portland, you guys in a class of their own. Overall, the analysis shows violent and property crime remained constant between 2020 and 2021, while the aggregate estimated violent crime volume decreased 1% for the nation during this time period, from 1.3 million to 1.13 million. The estimated number of murders increased in the United States. So FBI data, while not accounting for every jurisdiction in every state, indicated that violent crime in Portland shot up 38%. Rest of the country, aggregate, for the most part, pretty stable. Got some high levels of crime. People across the U.S. are concerned. Residents in Portland, we're going to get to that too. Residents in Portland, did a podcast yesterday. Almost 8 out of 10 residents are afraid of walking around their neighborhoods by themselves, alone. That 8 out of 10 are afraid of walking around their own neighborhoods by themselves. They're afraid of being assaulted. They are afraid of violence happening to them walking around their own neighborhoods. If that isn't a poster child for, hey, we need to do something here, but we'll get to it in a second. We'll get to it. So crime up 38% in Portland, and that is violent crime up 38% in Portland, up from 3,148 violent crime incidents in 2020, 4,374 in 2021. And it feels like Portland is on track in 2022 to even surpass that. I mean, just some of the stories I'm reading are like, man, because, you read these stories And you're like, oh, that's not good. But some of this stuff happens all the time, no matter what. That's the argument from the other side, from people on the left. It's a big city. We got a lot of crime here. But some of the stories I'm reading are, on an ongoing basis. But then when you look at the actual numbers, you're like, okay, yeah, but it's not the worst it's ever been. And in Portland, their highest crime year in recent history, 1987. Year I graduated from high school. Stellar. We had all that gang activity, right? We had that gang activity coming up from California, at the whole Crips and Bloods thing, and that kind of escalated. And you just had some wild stuff going on and a bunch of other stuff in there as well. But 1987, I mean, that's what I read, at the breakfast table with my mom and my brother. I was just reading the newspaper going, wow, there is some wild stuff happening out there. And, I hadn't been alive long enough to realize, okay, this kind of goes and ups and downs, and some areas go and, crazier runs. Portland right now, 38% up. That's a little bit tough. Portland's homicide rates, however, remain far below their peak in the late 1980s. So, okay, so you've got that going on. That was 1987. And one of the other things is Portland's going to release its jogger rapist that has been out there for, he's been incarcerated for 30 years, I think, convicted the early 80s. Portland officials just going to let him out. Yeah, it's okay. Sure, you're rehabilitated. All right, good luck out there. Good luck out there, Portland residents. 38%, about to go up a little bit higher. All right, so what are the Portland what's Portland doing about this? Residents of crime-ridden Portland area to vote on ballot measure removing gendered language. Huh. That's interesting. Let's read that again. That can't be right. What are the residents of crime-ridden Portland doing? Residents of crime-ridden Portland are voting on ballot measure removing gendered language. Here's one of those sub-story headlines, and you're like, okay, this has got to be a total disconnect. Did we screw up here? A recent survey of Portland residents found nearly half felt unsafe walking alone at night or in their own neighborhood. That's part of the whole survey, where I think it was 78% said, yeah, I'm afraid of walking in my own neighborhood alone because I might become the victim of assault. And so what they're doing is they're voting on removing gendered language. Yeah. Well, let's check this out. Let's just take a little peeky, see what we got going on here. Multnomah County, Oregon, which contains the city of Portland, is responsible for prosecuting criminal activity in the city, is looking to remove gender-related language from its charter. Don't worry about the 38% increase in violent crime. Worry about gender-neutral language, and you got to get everything all lined up so you know that who you're booking and who you aren't booking. I mean, you got to get that correct. What was it? The draft office just came out and said, hey, you got men, you got women. If you're a trans man or a trans woman that used to be a man, you get drafted. If you're a woman that's transitioned to a man, you don't get drafted. So all of a sudden, we're back to two sexes, right? Two, men and women. And then from that, the draft, selective service, is identifying, okay, yeah, but here's how you can identify how you want, but in reality, here's how we're going to draft you. Yeah, but everybody wants you to identify with this and identify with that, but if you're going to be drafted, all right, I identify as, well, you can't draft me. Well, no, this is what we're doing. What sex were you born as? All right, boom, you're going to get drafted. Boom, no go. You don't have the, no go. Crazy, right? It's hard to keep track of this stuff. Meanwhile, Portland, let's get back to Multnomah County. Voters in the county are set to vote on a local ballot measure that would remove language in the 1966 charter that includes gender binary pronouns such as he, she, his and her, and instead use gender neutral terms. So instead of fighting crime, we're going to identify how people, want to be identified. We're going to clean that up. We're not doing the he, she, his, her. We're doing the they, them, that stuff. Measure 26-230, also known as the Gender Neutral Charter Amendment, if approved, would adopt terms like the sheriff to refer to a particular position within the county rather than one that associates the office with a particular gender. And this helps reduce crime. How? Oh, I think that was the whole point. It doesn't at all. But this is how you get there, right? This is how you get there. You focus on this stuff. All right. So what are you going to do about policing? You're going to get some more cops in there? Yeah, that's going to take forever. So what are you doing in the meantime? I haven't heard from Mayor Ted in quite a while down in Portland. He's usually got something to say, but I think things have not been going swimmingly. That 38% bump in crime. I mean, just Portland and Multnomah County residents are experiencing a massive rise in crime as well as a pervasive homelessness problem on the city streets. They can't get that under control. And even my most friends that lean towards the left side of things. And I don't have any extreme folks in that department as friends. I just don't. I don't have friends that, I got a friend that's at Antifa. We went to lunch the other day. That's not really a thing. But, you're going to have friends that lean different ways. And I think you should, because otherwise you kind of get into this rabbit hole of, this is the only way I can think. This is the only option that's out there. And I've got multiple people in my life that, think differently than me. And that's kind of how you figure out, all right, well, how's that working out for you? Not good, is it? But even those folks are like, good God, I went through Portland the other day. I'm never going back. And these are people that are, they're pretty reasonable too. You know what I mean? Centrist. I would say centrist, if anything. And that's probably why we get along, because, I lean a little more to the right, obviously, and folks that are leaning to the left, you can't disagree that Portland is on a trajectory that isn't good for its residents. Multnomah County, you can't, there's just no way you can say, you know what? Things are going pretty well. Things are going pretty smooth. Crime is down. You know what? Shootings are down. Carjackings are down. The whole catalytic converter thing is down. Homelessness is really working itself out. Mayor's doing a great job. City council, just, they are really moving the city in the right direction. Got a lot of businesses coming in. We don't have businesses leaving in epic record numbers, not unlike Chicago. No, none of that is true, is it? Not one of those statements is true. So, yeah. So instead of focusing on crime and how to reduce homelessness, which they're making an effort, but it's not going anywhere. And there's, multiple reasons that's happening. Meanwhile, they are going to eliminate, the he, she, his, and her, and instead use gender neutral terms. Okay. Well, one of the other highlights of this article is Oregon liquor store thefts up 450% in recent years as store owners shout from the rooftops for help. How many stories have we done, of local businesses? Thrift shop in Portland shuts down because the guy can't keep it open because of crime and doesn't have enough people coming in. Cracker Barrel out of business, Jansen Beach. Stanford's fancy steak restaurant just down the street from Cracker Barrel in Portland, Jansen Beach. Done. Finite. Gone. Yeah, just out of there. Finite. Is that even a word? I'm not really sure, but we're going to run with it. All right. So along this line, let's take a look at our third headline, which is, and that all has to do with each other. Most Portland voters peg the city council as very ineffective. Interesting. I'm sorry. For those of you residents in Portland, your city council is off the charts bad. Bad for you. How did you guys vote these people into office? Literally. I mean, so many of the comments are, yeah, you get what you voted for. You get what you deserve. And I can't disagree. I can't disagree. And that leads me to kind of my fourth point. We're going to read this, but my fourth point is President Biden is going to be in town on tomorrow, Friday. Now, what's he doing there? Well, he's doing a little proppy prop for the governor because you've got a Republican governor, and I podcasted on that yesterday, that it's got a shot. Not a great shot, but when you got the president of the U.S. coming to town to, kind of do a little bit of, hey, let's all give this person some support here. He's coming into town for some fundraiser for Kotek, who is running against a Republican who has made some big grounds. And it's because, and Oregon is a wildly, wildly blue state. And in the urban centers where most of the population is, if you look at the population in Oregon, it's kind of like Washington. Washington, it's all on the West Coast. In Oregon, a lot of the same thing. It's, out by the water. You go east of the mountains and things are Cascade Mountains. And you're like, small little cities far apart and just, it's Trump country out there, but there's not enough population to swing the voting count. Plus, we're over here on the West Coast. Who even cares about our vote? That's why half the kids here don't vote, because, by the time things, get sorted away on election day, we're an afterthought from the electoral process. But you got a governor that's got an outside shot at having a governor that has an R in front of their name. Weird. 85% of the Portland voters peg the city council as ineffective, including 59% who say it's very ineffective, 6 out of 10. And yet you all voted them in. Interesting. As concerns over homelessness and crime continue to fuel pessimism about the direction of the city and those tapped to lead it, a new Oregon Live poll shows just 9% of the voters polled said the council was effective. And all of them said it was only somewhat so. I don't think you can argue with those stats. You just can't. You need some new leadership in Portland till the residents are able to kind of let go of that. Well, keep Portland weird and Portlandia. Unless you're able to let go of that a little bit and get somebody maybe a little more centrist, you're going to have much of the same. You're going to have the FBI saying, all right, everybody else kind of on par. Portland, you guys are off the charts here, 38% up. Not the way you want those numbers to go, right? All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much. See you on the next one. Bye for now.